Hey there, and welcome to Workforce Pulse, the podcast for recruitment and staffing founders who are ready to grow, scale, and shake up the industry. I'm your host, Kirutika Munusamy, and I'm so glad you're here. This is where we have real, no nonsense conversations about what it takes to build a thriving business in recruitment and staffing. Forget the fluff. We're all about strategies that actually work, shared by the people who've been there and done it. A quick shout out to our sponsor, Ambrosial Automations. At Ambrosial Automations, we are your behind the scene partner for growth. We help recruitment and staffing businesses streamline their operations, bring in quality leads, boost sales, and scale, all without the risky upfront costs. We work on a revenue share model, so we don't succeed unless you do. If you're curious about how it works, head over to ambrosialautomations.com for a free 12-month growth plan that is tailored just for you. All right, let's dive in. Today, we have a special guest joining us, Corey Jackson. He's someone who knows what it takes to succeed at highest levels, both on field and in the business world. He's a former NFL defensive lineman turned entrepreneur, speaker, and CEO. After his career in professional football, Corey didn't just retire. He reinvented himself, launching Qwerkz, a cutting-edge recruitment firm that connects high-potential talent with top employers. Corey, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
The pleasure is all ours. So, Corey, in a nutshell, what does Qwerkz do?
Yeah, so just to kind of give a general insight to what we do, we initially started as a recruiting firm that was specific to athletes. And so we were helping athletes transition out of sports into their professional careers. And so that was the spark that started the company. Obviously, I'm a former athlete, and I understood the disconnect between companies and athletes and the understanding of how to transition those athletes over to being in the professional world. So we wanted to close that gap. And what happened as a result of that is we kind of morphed into a full service recruiting firm just by accident. We wasn't trying to be a recruiting firm. We were really trying to stick to our niche. But companies that we were working with really started to ask us to help with different things. And so I came up with the model of recruiting recruiters that came from different aspects of recruiting. So IT, engineering, healthcare. And so we decided to kind of create this mixed pot of recruiters that can operate in these different industries to be able to help our clients expand and get better talent. And today we kind of continued to grow out and really started to change how we looked at recruiting, or at least our positioning in the recruiting world. And so we wanted to look at recruiting as a space for us to be a platform to help other recruiting firms work with their ideal clients or the type of companies they want to work with. And so we went into working with private equity firms, and we're looking at their portfolio companies saying, hey, let us help all of these companies. Obviously, you have a vested interest in these companies, and recruiting is a huge issue. Cost is a huge issue, right? And so let us help you solve that problem by allowing us to provide the type of recruiting firms for the specific roles and positions you're looking for. And so we went past just being the recruiter, and we started being the platform that allow other firms to be able to access opportunities from these companies.
That's interesting. So, right now, what are the big trends that you're seeing in the industry?
Well, some of the major conversations, or one of the very big conversation right now, is RTO, obviously return to work, and how these organizations and companies are looking at that. So many companies have their own perspective on what makes sense for their organization. Should it be hybrid? Should it be remote? Should it be all the way back in the office full time?
Yeah.
And so this is a big conversation that's going on, and this has been happening for a couple of years now. We've had clients that, early on, once everything kind of came to a head with COVID and all those things, they wanted people back in the office right away, and they wasn't excited about people being remote. And I think part of it was not having measurables in place to understand the productivity and what
Yeah.
exactly was happening. So those checks and balances, what was happening while our employees are out of the office. How are they being productive? And I think being in the office is not about production. I think it just makes people feel good that
Yeah.
their employees are there, right?
Yeah.
And so seeing the world change so much and how people want to work, and also the control that they have over their work, is always been over the last, I say, year and a half, a big topic of conversation.
Got it. Any other trends that you're seeing other than RTO?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when it comes to pay,
Hmm.
that's always a big topic of conversation as well.
Yeah.
I think that there was a point, especially if you're familiar with kind of like the IT space, there was a
Yeah.
point where those salaries was like going through the roof.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden things started to kind of level out and come back down a little bit. Obviously pay is always going to be at the top of the conversation as well.
Okay. And what are your insights or thoughts about talent shortage that is going on in US?
Yeah, I mean, it's very industry specific. Obviously, healthcare is always a huge demand there, and
Yeah.
so we're always looking to create pipelines for that. And so I think healthcare is going to be at the top of the leaderboard for a while, and just in search of having consistent talent come through. And so that's probably the biggest one. Um,
Yeah.
what's been really hot over the last, for sure, 12 months is engineering. Finding good engineering talent has been on the rise. And so
Yeah.
that's something I think will continue.
Okay. Got it. Are there any big challenges that you're seeing?
Yeah, I think, obviously, when you talk about the U.S. market and the landscape changing politically,
Hmm.
having a different president now, having different agendas. Obviously, DEI has always been, a hot button topic, and so we're seeing some of those ideas being challenged now. We're seeing companies saying, "Hey, we don't think it's working," or we don't want to be too concerned with DEI. And
Yeah.
so that's something that is certainly been a hot topic as of late.
Yeah. Got it. Okay. Are there any big initiatives Quirks is working on at the moment?
Yeah, initiatives. Yeah, yeah. I think our whole model now and strategy now is about growth. What I've learned over the last 10 years of being in this industry is you have to find ways to accommodate the market. And what I mean
Yeah.
by that is we started off with a lot of independent recruiters. And so
Yeah.
they would work with us independently. So they were contract recruiters, and we would put them in positions to be able to work on the type of roles and work with the type of companies they want to work with. And what we learned in that space was there were much more opportunities um, available than we were tapping into. And so, what led us to look at things differently, when you think about growth and scale, and I think most of your audience is looking to grow and scale their companies, we wanted to really think about how do we support not just the independent recruiters now, how do we support those recruiting firms that want to grow?
Hmm.
Because as you know, a lot of recruiting firms partner with each other. So if some recruiting firms have excess roles, they don't have enough recruiters to support those roles,
Yeah.
they'll partner with another firm, split the fees, and that's how they would work, right? Well,
Yeah.
what we saw was, okay, why don't we just create a marketplace where we can provide the companies that are looking to hire and put them in front of the firms that are looking to supplement the gaps for not having enough roles to work on? Because what
Yeah.
happens, excuse me, what happens is when a firm has don't have enough roles to work on, then they have recruiters that are not being able to maximize their ability to do the work. And so now companies are losing money because they don't have enough work coming in. And so when you create these partnerships, they're able to work on roles and supplement those roles, and make more money that they wouldn't have been able to make otherwise. And what that does for the clients is bring the cost down a little bit, right? And
Yeah.
so it brings the recruiting cost down a little bit to help the company save on having that outsource that recruiting. And then it also fills in the gaps for those recruiting firms so they can make more money.
Got it. Got it. And what are your thoughts about international recruiting?
Yeah, we and just in general, obviously recruiting across the board, it comes down to companies being able to um, maintain a budget for that, right? When you're talking
Yeah.
about outsourcing that recruiting, and I think just holistically looking at it, um, one of the things that I saw was when companies get into a pinch, or if they have like a down quarter, or recruiting is one of the first things they look at to kind of X out the budget, right? They're like, hey, we need to cut back on this, right? And I think in a global market, I think it's all the same, right? It's us as recruiting firms figuring out how to make sure that we stay relevant to the companies, even though they're going through certain transitions within their markets. Even if they have a down quarter, how do we make sure that we remain valuable enough to them that they can still use our services?
Okay. Got it. So, are there any opportunities that lie ahead for Qwerkz this year?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we're trying to do is just to continue to grow our value prop for more of these PE firms. Obviously, these when you think about how do you acquire business, we wanted to think about it as more of a portfolio, right? How do I acquire not one client, but how do I acquire 30 clients at one time, right? And so we're going to continue on that trajectory where we're looking to acquire clients in droves versus one-offs. And when you look at firms that own portfolio companies, then they have a vested interest in that. And so we're going to continue to kind of seek out these larger firms that own multiple companies and say, hey, here's how we can add value to you.
Okay. And are you looking into any other subsectors of the industry?
Um, I think that there's some growing sectors. We haven't figured out the value part of it yet.
Hmm.
But there's always gaps. There's always, when you talk about uh, the blue collar work, when you talk
Yeah.
about what they call the real economy, there are so many gaps in the trades, right? Having people who plumbing, HVAC,
Yeah.
but we haven't figured out a consistent flow to be able to plug into that yet. But there's huge gaps there, and there's a market there because a lot of these companies can't attain enough talent fast enough to be able to sustain what they're trying to do.
Yeah. Got it. So, tell us about the priorities and goals that you have set for Qwerkz for 2025.
Yeah. So our biggest goals are basically partner and client centric. And so we look at our recruiting partners and we're saying, hey, how do we get you from where you are to where you want to be? And we set our goals around that because what it does is it ensures that we grow, right? And so when we're helping our clients and our partners, we're going to grow. And so we want to help as many recruiting firms as possible get access to the type of companies they want to work for. And that's big for us because I believe as we trend towards the future, having ways to help other firms lower their recruiting costs. So sales is a big thing, right? We're going to go out and we're going to acquire new clients, right? And when you start doing that, you realize like, wait a minute, this could be pretty costly. We got to measure all of this. How are we going to sustain this? And so we want to continue to be the platform that allow them to reduce that sales cost, reduce overhead, and be able to just plug into the roles that they want to work on and what they want to provide
Yeah.
for the type of clients they want to work for. And as we do that, we're going to get bigger and better and stronger.
Yeah, that's true. So you want to be that reliable long-term partner for them.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So what is Quirk's vision for the next 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, I think over the next 2 to 3 years, we're going to see a lot of growth, especially um, as it pertains to how we interact with our clients, and how we actually uncover new ways to find clients. Right. I think one thing about being a growth company is you're always looking for the new way to be able to obtain the clients that you need to provide the services to. And so over the
Yeah.
next couple of years, we're going to continue to think about scalability, right? How do we
Yeah.
continue to acquire clients in droves is going to be a model for us. I think sometimes, and this is just for individuals that are listening, um, sometimes we don't always realize that the same effort and energy it takes to acquire one, you can do 10 to 20 clients, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're looking in the right places. And I think that's why, when you're looking at investors and private equity and you're looking in those spaces, they have a vested interest in many companies. And so
Yeah.
we should be starting there. And I tell people all the time, like the biggest hack is figuring out how to do something one time and create multiple avenues for yourself and off of that one activity. And so that's what we're going to continue to do.
Oh, that's great. So, since we were talking about the biggest hack, what would be one advice that you would give our listeners who are, who are thinking of starting their own staffing or recruitment or any kind of entrepreneurial effort, endeavor? So, what would be your biggest advice to them?
Yeah. So my biggest advice is, especially if you don't have a lot of funding up front, think about partnerships. Think about working with uh, partners that not necessarily would be your competitors, but maybe a step above, right? And so now you're looking at a company that is a step above where you would be and saying, hey, how can I support you? Can I help you? Can I use my services to provide services for you? Because those are the partnerships that are going to allow you to start to uh, make some money, generate some revenue, and then also build some relationships along the way as well. And so I would say be very partnership focused, especially early on, and try to find the type of companies that are just a little step ahead that you can provide service to.
Yeah, that was pretty good. So, the entire discussion was pretty insightful. And so, that's the wrap for today's episode of Workforce Pulse. Huge thanks to our guest, Corey, for sharing his incredible insights on all the topics that he shared with us. Now, before we go, Corey, where can people find you if they want to connect or learn more about your work?
Yeah, definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. Obviously, LinkedIn is a huge platform where we're able to interact and engage. So definitely connect with me on LinkedIn, and then you can go to Qwerkz.com just to see more about what we do and who we are.
Perfect, perfect. So make sure to follow Corey on LinkedIn and check out Qwerk's website. To our listeners, if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, or share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. And one more time, if you're stuck in the grind of manual processes or struggling to grow, we can help you optimize operations, bring in leads that convert, boost sales, and scale without the upfront risk. Head over to ambrosialautomations.com to get your free custom 12-month growth plan. All right, that's it for today. Thanks again, Corey. And
Thank
thank
you.
you, everyone, for tuning in. Let's build, grow, and keep the workforce pulse alive.